This is Department of English, Government Postgraduate College, Attack for online classes for first year, and I am Muhammad Ali, lecturer in English. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on one-act play, and I have taken this one-act play from book 3, and this is play number 2. The name of this drama or play is Visit to a Small Planet. First of all, I will introduce the writer of this novel. The name of the writer is Gore Vidal, and he was born on 3rd October 1925 and he died on 31st July 2012. Gore Vidal was an American writer and public intellectual. He was born into an upper class political family. His full name is Eugene Luther Gore Vidal. On his birth, his name was Eugene Louis Vidal. The middle name, Louis, was a mistake on the part of his father, who could not remember for certain whether his own name was Eugene Louis or Eugene Luther. Gore Vidal was born on 3rd October 1925 in the Cadet Hospital of the United States of America Military Academy at West Point, New York. He was born there because his first lieutenant father was the first aeronautics instructor of the military academy. Gore Vidal died on 31st July 2012, aged 86, in Los Angeles, California, United States of America. Gore Vidal was the only child of Eugene Luther Vidal, and this Eugene Luther Vidal was from 1895 to 1969. Gore Vidal was not baptized, means he was not registered as Christian until January 1939, when he was 13 years old, by the headmaster of the St. Albans School, where he attended a preparatory school. He was baptized as Eugene Luther Gore Vidal at the Washington Cathedral in February 1939. The baptismal ceremony was effected so he could be confirmed into the Episcopal faith. In 1941, Vidal dropped his two first names because he wanted a sharp, distinctive name suitable for an aspiring or hopeful author or a national political leader. He was raised in Washington, D.C. Vidal attended the Sidwell Friends School and the St. Albans School. In 1939, during his summer holiday, Vidal went with some colleagues or class fellows and professor from St. Albans School on his first European trip. He went to Italy and France. He visited for the first time Rome, the city which came to be at the center of Gore's literary imagination, and Paris. When the Second World War began in early September 1939, the group was forced to an early return home. On his way back, he and his colleagues stopped in Great Britain and they met the United States of American ambassador to Great Britain, Joe Kennedy, the father of John F. Kennedy, the later president of the United States of America. Rather than attend university, Vidal enlisted in the U.S. Army, in American Army, and worked as an office clerk within the USA Air Force. Later, Vidal passed the examinations necessary to become a maritime naval warrant officer or junior grade in the transportation corps. After 3 years in service, warrant officer Jean Vidal got sickness and consequently he became a mess officer. Beyond literature, Vidal was heavily involved in politics. He twice sought office unsuccessfully as a Democratic Party candidate, first in 1960 to the United States House of Representatives for New York and later in 1982 to the United States of American Senate for California. As a political commentator and essayist, Vidal's primary focus was the history and society of the United States, especially how a militaristic foreign policy reduced the country to a decadent empire. His political and cultural essays were published in The Nation, The New Statesman, The New York Review of Books, and Esquire magazines. As a public intellectual, Gore Vidal's topical debates on politics and religion with other intellectuals and writers occasionally turned into quarrels. Gore Vidal's literary career. The literary works means his writings and his books. The literary works of Gore Vidal were influenced by numerous other writers, poets, and playwrights or dramatists, novelists, and essayists. These include from antiquity, means from the past, Petronius, Juvenal, and Apuleius, and from the post-Renaissance, Michael de Montaigne, Thomas Love Peacock, and George Meredith. More recent literary influences included Marcel Proust, Henry James. This Henry James was from 1843 to 1916. So this writer, Gore Vidal, was witty, and he had sharp wit, a sharp mind, having polished style of writing. Fiction means imaginative work. As a novelist, Vidal explored the nature of corruption in public and private life. His polished style of narration delineated or defined the psychology of his characters, means the inner working of the mind of his characters. The literary career of George Vidal began with the success of the military novel Willibo, a man at war story derived from his Alaskan harbor detachment duty during the Second World War. His third novel, The City and the Pillar, that was written in 1948, caused a moralistic furor. It offended the literary, political, and moral sensibilities of conservative book reviewers. Vidal took the pseudonym Edgar Box. The Edgar Box genre means the kind novels sold well and earned blacklisted Vidal a secret living. That mystery novel success led Vidal to write in other genres or kinds of literature, and he produced the stage play The Best Man, a play about politics, in 1960, and the television play Visit to a Small Planet. This play that we will discuss in detail, the name of this play is Visit to a Small Planet, that was composed in 1957. That was a television play. Two early teleplays were A Sense of Justice, and that was written in 1955, and Honor. He also wrote the pulp novel Thieves Fall Out under the pseudonym Cameron Kay, but refused to have it reprinted under his real name during his life. In the 1960s, Vidal published Julian, that was composed in 1964, about the Roman Emperor Julian the Apostate, who sought to restore polytheistic paganism when Christianity threatened the cultural integrity of the Roman Empire. He also wrote Washington, D.C. in 1967 about political life during the presidential era, that was 1933 to 1945, of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And similarly, he wrote a satire of the American movie business. He published the plays Weekend in 1968, and Evening with Richard Nixon in 1972, and the novel Two Sisters, a novel in the form of a memoir, in 1970. Vidal developed the two types of fiction. The first type is about American history novels, specifically about the nature of national politics. The New York Times, quoting critic Harold Bloom about those historical novels, said that Vidal's imagination of American politics is so powerful as to compel awe. The historical novels form the 7-book series Narratives of Empire, Burr in 1973, Lincoln in 1984, and 1876, that was in 1976, Empire in 1987, Hollywood in 1990, Washington DC in 1967, The Golden Age in 2000. Besides United States of American history, Vidal also explored and analyzed the history of the ancient world, specifically the axial age that was from 800 to 200 BC, before the birth of Christ, with the novel Creation that was composed in 1981. The novel was published without 4 chapters that were part of the manuscript or handwritten copy he submitted to the publisher. Years later, Vidal restored the chapters to the text and republished the novel Creation in 2002. In the historical novel genre, Vidal recreated the imperial world of Julian the Apostate. And similarly, he wrote other books, and in Burr, that was composed in 1973, and Lincoln in 1984, each hero is presented as a man of the people and as a man in a narrative exploration of how the public and private facets or aspects of personality affect the national politics of the United States of America. The second type of fiction or the literary work is the topical style, means criticism to correct others, and he wrote many books and about the end of the world and the consequent the result. And similarly, he wrote another alternate universe story, Life from Golgotha, that was in 1990, about the adventures of Timothy, Bishop of Macedonia, in the early days of Christianity, and some other books as well. There is also a record of non-fiction compiled by this writer. Gore Vidal concentrated upon the essay, and in the United States, Gore Vidal is often considered an essayist rather than a novelist. For 6 decades, means 60 years, Vidal applied himself to socio-political, historical, and literary subjects. In the essay Anthology or Magdon in 1987, he explored the intricacies of power, political and cultural, in the contemporary United States. His criticism about the US President Ronald Reagan, and we also find he communicated the Reagan's provincial worldview and that of his administrations. And he thought that Ronald Reagan was out of date and insufficient to the geopolitical realities of the world in the late 20th century. In 1993, Vidal won the National Book Award for Nonfiction for the anthology United States Essays 1952 to 92. And he composed this book in 1993. In 2000, Vidal published the collection of essays, The Lost Empire, then such self-described pamphlets as Perpetual War for Perpetual Peace, Dreaming War, Blood for Oil, and the Cheney Bush Junta and Imperial America, critics of American expansionism and the military-industrial complex, the national security state, and the George W. Bush administration. Vidal also wrote a historical essay about the USA founding fathers inventing a nation in 1995. He published a memoir, Palimpsest, and in 2006, its follow-up volume, Point-to-Point Navigation. Earlier that year, Vidal had published Clouds and Eclipses, the collected short stories. In 2009, he won the annual Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters from the National Book Foundation, which called him a prominent social critic on politics, history, literature, and culture. In the same year, the man of letters, Gore Vidal, was named honorary president of the American Humanist Association.